Welcome to another edition of Papa Bojo's Kitchen. Well, I'm fresh back from a tour of southern Italy and Sicily, and as promised, I'm going to make a few of the dishes that I had that were my favorites when I was there. The first one is caponata. It's something that I had 3 different times in 3 different locations. I had it near Sorrento, I had it near Taormina, and I had it in Palermo. My favorite was one that we had at a personal residence, and it was a residence of a citrus farm where they specialize in growing probably the biggest and best lemons I ever had, and that was in the region near Taormina. Also, I'm sporting a brand new apron that I got in Palermo, had it customized with Papa Bojo's Cucina. Okay, so Papa Bojo's Kitchen's got a little bit of a different look. So as I go through making this, I'll tell you what the ingredients and how much they are. I'm not going to list them for you. Just follow the video. Not only will you get the ingredients list, but you'll learn how to make this phenomenal dish. The first thing we're going to do, and this is the main portion of the dish, it's the hero of the dish, if you will. We're going to cube up this big eggplant. If you have smaller Italian eggplants, that's even better. But I don't have them, so I'm going to use one big one, or you can use 2 to 3 smaller ones. It's about this much. And what we're going to do is I'm going to cut this into cubes. So I'm going to cut it into 3 slices this way, and we're going to keep the skins on. And I'm going to slice it, each one 3 times this way, and then we're just going to cut cubes. We want them fairly small because what we're going to do with all the vegetables, we're going to roast them in the oven for about 25 minutes. So I've got a big bowl here, and we're going to put all the vegetables in the big bowl. Next, I've got 2 stalks of celery. Get rid of the end pieces. And I'm just going to cut these into slices, diagonal slices. You don't want them too big. You don't want them too small. Make them just a little bit smaller than the slices that you have for the eggplant. Now I have 1 onion. You can use whatever type of onion you want. You can use a shallot if you want. That's mild, and I want a little bit more onion flavor in this. So that's why I'm using a Spanish onion. You can use a white onion or a Vidalia, whatever you want. But primarily just peel it. Get rid of all of the skins. And then we're just going to cut this into some strips. Again, these are all going to be roasted down. And we're going to toss these in the bowl as well. Next, we have 2 red bell peppers. And we're going to cut these into slices. And we're going to drop these into our mix as well. Now I've got 4 nice Roma tomatoes. And what we're going to do is we're going to score these with a big X because we're going to peel the skins off these when we're done roasting them. So as you see, you can see the score there. We're going to do that, and we're going to drop these in whole. Next, we're going to add a generous amount of olive oil to all of this. And I'm going to get in with my hands. I cleaned them, and I'm going to mix this all around. And you want to make sure, especially each piece of that eggplant gets some coating of that olive oil. Now that I have this nice and coated in olive oil, I'm going to take and I'm going to sprinkle in some coarse kosher salt. Pretty liberal with that. And some fresh ground black pepper. Real fine. We don't want too coarse. And then we're just going to stir this around. You can use your hands too if you want. Now that I have this all mixed and salted and peppered, I'm going to take 2 trays. I'm going to set this aside for 1 second. I'm going to add some olive oil to each tray. And I've got non-stick trays. Now I'm going to take a piece of paper towel. I'm just going to spread this all out fairly liberally on both. Now I didn't mention, but you want to get an oven preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Now we're going to take half the mixture, stick it in one pan, half on the other pan. Set this aside. And for the tomatoes, for the peppers, you're going to want to put these upside down. For the tomatoes, you're going to want to stand these up on their stems. And you're also going to want to make sure that all of your eggplant is standing on edge, meaning not on its skin side, because you want the eggplant to cook. Now we're going to stick these in the preheated oven, 400 degrees Fahrenheit, for 25 to 35 minutes. Now, this is something special that was made only at this house that we had it. That's why I like this caponata the best. Okay. Caponata usually requires some sort of acidity, sometimes balsamic vinegar, sometimes red wine vinegar, and sugar. This particular place, this particular one I had red wine vinegar, and we've got a 1/4 cup, or I'm sorry, 1/3 of a cup of red wine vinegar. I've got 2 tablespoons of capers, and I've got 1/8 of a cup of honey. This honey in it was like the real kicker for this caponata. It was incredible. And so I think these proportions are correct. I'm going to make it and I'm going to taste like we should, and we'll adjust and see if we need to adjust as we're going. Time to get over to the oven. So I've got this on a medium heat, and it's going to warm up pretty quickly because you see there's not a lot of liquid in here. And this will be drizzled into the tomato sauce that I'm going to make with them tomatoes that are roasting. So I started out with 1/8 or 2 tablespoons of honey to 1/3 of a cup of red wine vinegar. I'm going to add what will bring this to about 1/3 of a cup of honey. So it'll be a 50-50 mix because it was just a little too acidic for me. And as in any cooking, always taste, 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 and adjust to the way you like it. Just a little bit more. And you'll know the taste when you're cooking. Remember, you can always add, but you can't subtract if you go too far. So if, for example, you wanted this a little more acidic, you would add a little more red wine vinegar at a time, and you would taste until it got to right where you want. And that's exactly where that flavor was. I remember it distinctly. So I've got about 1/3 of a cup of red wine vinegar, and when all said and done, about 1/3 of a cup of honey. After about 15 minutes, we're going to take just our tomatoes off because we're going to make a tomato sauce and mix that in with that sweet and sour sauce that we made. So we're going to go in here. I'm going to grab these tomatoes. Now, because we scored these when we put them in the oven, they're real easy to peel. You can just take these skins if you got tough hands. You can easily peel back the skins on these. And we're going to do that to each of these. And then we're going to cut these up and start making a sauce. So we got these peeled tomatoes in here, and I'm going to take a wooden spoon and I'm just going to break them up. Once I get them broken up, I'm going to put my heat on medium-high, and I'm going to cook these down. I'm going to add a nice couple pinches of kosher salt, a little bit of black pepper, and we're going to stir this. We want this to be slightly chunky, but not too much. I'm going to sprinkle in maybe about 1/4 teaspoon of basil and stir. Now that this is coming up and starting to boil, I'm going to add our honey, red wine vinegar, and caper mixture. I'm going to stir this in and we're going to reduce this. We'll reduce it to about half the volume you see now. So it's slightly thick, but not too thick. We're going to taste. Oh, is that good? And when it reduces, it'll even bring out more flavor in more of the tomato flavor of it and burn out a little bit of the acidity. We're going to increase the temperature a little bit and continue boiling this until it just goes down a little bit more. So this is what we want it to look like. I'm going to turn the heat off. Give it a taste. Boy, and that's just where I want it. Taste yours. If you want to make any changes to salt, pepper, or anything, do so. But see this liquid here? That eggplant is going to absorb some of this liquid when we mix it all together. We'll let this cool just a little bit. Now it's time to take our vegetables out. You can hear them sizzling, and this is just where we want them. You see how this eggplant on the bottom is nice and soft, and we got a little bit of char. Now you can fry these vegetables too if you want, instead of brown or cooking them in the oven. But I like to do that because now our red peppers, we can do the same thing we did with the tomatoes. We're going to peel those skins off the red peppers. We're going to put everything into this bowl, and we're going to mix the sauce. Well, we're almost finished making the caponata. We're going to take all these vegetables. We're going to stick them in a mixing bowl. We're going to stir this around. Now we're going to take our sauce that we have here. We're going to mix that in to our caponata, to our eggplant and vegetables, and we're going to stir this around. Now, caponata is usually eaten at room temperature. And if you really want to get all the flavors, you're going to let this cool. You're going to let it set in the fridge overnight. Then you're going to take it out of the fridge and you're going to let it come up to room temperature. And that's when you're going to eat it, because that'll be the most robust part of all of the flavors intermingling together. But we're sort of impatient, so we're going to let this cool down a little bit, and then we're going to plate it. So I let this cool down a little bit. I'm going to take a slotted spoon, and I'm going to plate this. Oh man, this is good. You have to really give this a try. This is a taste of Sicily. And I'm going to now sprinkle this with just a little bit of parsley, just to give it just a little bit of color. And here you have it. Sicilian eggplant caponata. It's pretty awesome, isn't it? And it even tastes better than it looks. I hope you give this a try. This is something that's really simple to make. Like I said, you can cook it in the oven. You can roast all the vegetables in the oven. You can roast them longer if you want, or less than you want. You decide how you want your vegetables to taste and what the texture is going to be. The flavor of that honey instead of sugar with the red wine vinegar is primo. You got to give it a try. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Papa Bojo's Kitchen. I hope you give this a try, and we'll see you next time. Buon appetito. Bye.